Good evening. Okay, so good evening again, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here with you this evening. We have a lot of information to cover. As you know, this is our weekly Kingdom Mastermind, and the goal is building the kingdom of God one family at a time. These 10 weeks are basically designed so that individuals, upon completion, will have a blueprint for becoming financially whole. So that's the reason we are launching these sessions, and so that we can go ahead and get started because, like I said, there's a lot of information to cover. I just want to acknowledge the Father. Father, we thank you for another evening that you've blessed us to collectively come together. And I ask that everything that we say, everything that we engage, that you would superintend the process, that you would take these families from where they are to that desired state that you would have for their life to experience the exceeding and abundantly. I'm asking you right now to bless everywhere their feet tread, everything their hand touch. Let this be the year of favor for them and their families. I pray that you will make them the head and not the tail. Wherever there's debt, eliminate it, eradicate it, distinguish it. In Jesus' name we pray, Father. Amen. Okay, so I want to go ahead and get into the slides tonight. So every week, I always ask, and I hope, family, that you're doing this every day. This is Napoleon Hill said it in his book, where he asked all the billionaires from around the country, how did they amass their wealth? And they said the wealth started first in their mind before it ever hit their bank account. So wealth is a matter of mindset, mentality. If you don't think you're deserving of wealth, you'll never have it. So you can pay your 10% every week. You can invest all you want. You can create as many side hustles as you want. But until you accept the fact that you are worthy of receiving wealth, or as Jesus would say, do you believe that I'm able to do this? Until you believe that you're able to become a recipient of all that God has for you, it will never become a reality in your life. So every day we want to repeat these wealth affirmations. I am worthy of having more wealth. Financial freedom is my birthright. Money comes to me easily and effortlessly. Wealth constantly flows into my life. My actions create constant prosperity. I am grateful to be financially free. So, as we review our lesson from last week, I gave you a homework assignment, and I just want to know, you could put it in the chat, how many listed their debts from smallest to largest with the amounts and due dates on the forms that were sent out. I want to make sure you're listing your debts from smallest to greatest so that you're employing the snowball method that we described to eradicate each debt one at a time. So how many listed their debts from smallest to largest with the amounts and the due dates? And you can just put the information in the chat. Secondly, how many printed off their 3 credit reports? And as you see, I have a typo there, so I'm going to own that and apologize for that. It should say off. How many printed off their 3 credit reports and highlighted any errors, aliases, old addresses, and old telephone numbers? That is very important to highlight those because you're going to contact the 3 credit reporting bureaus and have that information removed. So I hope that you ordered your credit reports and you highlighted that information. These strategies will only work and you will only see a measurable difference in your financial situation at the end of the 10 weeks if you have been employing what we've been sharing. So now let's get into it. I shared with you that this week we're going to talk about credit reports, increasing your credit report. So I'm going to read a lot of this information because it's a lot of information. This week I had to do a lot of research and I researched several websites, several texts. And so I'm going to do a lot of reading and I hope you're listening and taking notes. So why do you need to check your credit report? According to a study conducted, this is about a Federal Trade Commission, only 1 in 5 people have an error of at least one on their credit report. At least one error. 1 in 5 Americans have at least one error on their credit report, according to the Federal Trade Commission. That's why I want you to order your credit report and review it for errors. 22% of Americans have credit scores of 800 or higher. 22%. That's not even a quarter of the population. 54% of adults have never checked their credit score. You never want to play defense. You always want to play offense. Don't be reactive, be proactive in checking your credit report and making sure that you're doing what you need to maintain a good credit report. Your credit scores are a snapshot of your financial life. Your profile is the set of choices you make to get those scores and its combination of financial and personal benchmarks. What makes up your credit profile? This is very important. We worry a lot about our credit score when we should be looking at our credit profile. Credit profile are the things that you're doing that actually produces your credit score. So it's more about your profile than those 3 digits. What makes up your credit profile? It's a combination of factors. You are rewarded for having a variety of what is called debt flavors, like installment loans, revolving debt, mortgage debt, because it shows a lender you are able to manage different kinds of expenses on a steady month-to-month basis. So those debt flavors are really what they call credit mix. Lenders like to see that you have a mix of credit. Now, the credit score reflects how you will use other people's money. That's what credit is. You're using other people's money. So if you want to access other people's money, you need to learn how to use and control credit. I want to be sure that you understand all the moving parts to the credit process before you begin fixing your own credit. So it's about understanding tonight, and then we're going to transition into some strategies that I want you to start employing every day. You need to understand that there are 3 main players involved in credit. 3 main players. Here's the analogy. So your credit report is like your school transcript. All of us went to school, we got a report card, or went to college and got a college transcript. So your credit report is like a transcript. It's a detailed record of your financial history and public records. Next, you have your credit score. Your credit score is like your grade point average. This number is produced when all the information from your credit report is ran through the credit bureau's algorithm. And your credit bureaus, Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, those are your teachers. Like teachers who gave you grades, the bureaus collect information about you to generate your credit report and your 3-digit score. So those are the 3 players. You have your report card, which is your credit transcript. You have your credit score, which is your grade point average, and you have the reporting agencies that calculate everything and give you a 3-digit score, which are your teachers. Again, credit profile. Thinking about your financial decisions in terms of how they will affect your credit score is fine, but that's only the short term. But to have a long-term success, you want to transition that thinking into considering your credit profile. And your credit profile is what produces strong credit and leads to ultimate freedom in your financial life. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat, and I'm going to ask Sister Kimberly if she would just stop me and just let me know if anybody's communicating in the chat. So if you have a long track record of paying your mortgage, we're going to talk about the credit hierarchy, because there is a credit hierarchy when it comes to credit. Can everyone still hear me? Because I see that I'm frozen. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Excellent. Okay. So if you have a long track record of paying your mortgage, it's like having a highly trusted person vouch for your character. So every time you pay your mortgage, it's like the lender is vouching for you that you're able to handle credit and pay credit on time. So at the top of the credit account hierarchy is the mortgage. The mortgage is at the top when it comes to creditors reviewing your credit history or your credit payment history. The mortgage holds the most weight. Also, an equity line of credit is like a relative of the mortgage when it comes to your credit profile. Installment accounts like car loans and student loans are next on the credit hierarchy. So you have the mortgage, right under that, you have car loans, and then right underneath that, you have credit card accounts. So lenders and credit credit reporting agencies, when it comes to calculating your score, they're looking at that hierarchy. They're looking at your mortgage, they're looking at lines of credit, then they're looking at your car loans and your student loans, which are installment loans, and then they're looking at revolving credit, which is credit cards. At the bottom of the credit hierarchy is medical debt. So medical debt is also looked at, but is not weighed as heavily as the other forms of debt, your installment loans, your mortgage, etc. So I asked you to print off your 3 credit reports from the 3 credit reporting bureaus. And once you have those credit reports, I want you to look at each of those and highlight your old and outdated addresses, your old telephone numbers, all of your old employers, all of those items on your credit report. And I want you to contact the 3 credit reporting bureaus. And I want you to contact them in writing, and I'll explain why as we proceed through the presentation this evening. But I want you to take that information, highlight it, and then contact the fraud department in Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion and ask them to remove that information because it's no longer accurate. And legally, they'll have to do that because the only thing that's required to be on your credit report is your name, your address, your social, contact telephone number, etc. That's current. So any old information, you can contact the fraud department and ask them to remove it because it's no longer accurate. What that does is when creditors come after you for old accounts, they no longer have the information associated with those accounts. Remove them from your credit report. Any questions about that, please?
Not at this time, Mr. Thomas.
Okay. So medical debt. The 3 major credit bureaus have standardized medical debt reporting to protect consumer credit reports from being unduly affected by medical debt. Now, this is recent. Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion now allow a 180-day waiting period before medical debt appears on your credit report. So it's no longer 60 days, no longer 90 days, it's now 180 days. They have to wait 180 days before posting medical debt on your credit report. So know that as a consumer. By taking action within those 180 days, you can prevent medical bills from hurting your credit score. So don't let it get past 180 days because you don't want medical debt on your credit report. Now, when a hospital charges you for a procedure, your bill is sent to the insurance company, and the insurance company then expects to be compensated. Now, here's what you probably don't know. The insurance company can write off that debt. You want to look for an annotation on your bill. On that annotation, it should say something like, contact us at this phone number if you cannot pay your bill. You want to contact them. And when you contact them, let them know you cannot afford to pay your bill. If indeed you cannot afford to pay your bill because you're living paycheck to paycheck or you just don't have the additional income to satisfy another creditor, let them know that. And ask about charity care. I don't have that on the slide, but if you ask about charity care, every hospital has charity care. And those dollars are used to pay for claims that those being served by the hospital cannot afford to pay. It's called charity care. But look on your bill and it should say, if you cannot pay your bill, contact us at this telephone number, and you want to contact them. And this is for all major providers. Another resource is the Patient Advocate Foundation. This is a national nonprofit organization that offers assistance to patients dealing with chronic, debilitating, or life-threatening illnesses. The service is free. So you can contact them, and I have the telephone number listed there. So if you want to write the telephone number down, you can, but you want to call them and ask them to provide you with assistance. Why am I doing this on the front end? We're going to get into cleaning up your credit report, but I want to provide you with strategies now so that moving forward, you don't have any additional derogatory accounts on your credit report as we're seeking to clean them up. So I want you to start employing these strategies. Student loan debt under the CARES Act included relief on the Department of Education federal and student loans. That is still current. There's relief being provided under the CARES Act through the Biden administration. So they are forgiving student loans. You want to inquire to see if you're eligible for those programs. And also, last week I shared with you that research says if you add an additional $50 a month to your student loan debt, you can reduce that debt by thousands. One individual that had a 20-year student loan debt paid an additional $50 a month and reduced it from 20 years to 10 years. Facts. So there's the information for student loans with regard to relief under the CARES Act. Now let's get into, okay, let's get into the debt collection process. I shared with you last week that during this time, if you have any debt collectors call your house, remember I shared with you that any debt collector that calls your house, you want to share with them that I do not conduct business affairs over the telephone. Send it to me in writing. Once they send it to you in writing, you have 30 days to make them validate the debt. You do not owe a debt collector. You had an arrangement with the original creditor. You never signed a contract or agreed to pay a third party debt collector. They cannot produce a contract saying you have a legal obligation to pay them, so they must release the debt. But you have 30 days to send them a request for validation and send it certified mail so that you have a paper trail. So now, with regard to debt collections that are currently on your credit report, because you did not respond in 30 days, you basically said the debt is mine. Silence gave consent. So now that you have those annotations on your credit report, uh, here's a strategy I want you to employ when you reach out to those debt collecting agencies. But first, understand this: a debt collection company purchased or purchases large portfolios of debt and simply go through and quietly add each individual debt to the credit reports of those people in the database they just purchased. So they purchase debt from creditors and they place all of that in the database, and they go after individuals whose debt have not been satisfied with the creditor, and they pay for this pennies on the dollar. And then they add these accounts to the credit reports, and they come after those individuals because those individuals now have a derogatory listing on their credit report. That's how it works. So when you contact a debt collector because you have a negative annotation on your credit report, you want to negotiate with that debt collector to reduce the amount that you're obligated to pay, because now you've basically consented to the debt being yours because it's on your credit report. So you want to settle with them. They purchased your debt for pennies on the dollar. So if you settle with them, you want to reduce the amount. Now, here's what I want you to do. When you settle for that reduced amount, they will offer to annotate the account that it's been satisfied. You do not want that. You want them to send you a letter. A note does not do anything to affect the underlying score for the impact that the late payment has caused. You want nothing less than a removal of the collection. So you tell them, I want the collection removed from my credit report. And if you need a letter to send them, let me know. I will provide you with letters to send to them. But any debt collector that calls your home, this is a new debt, you want them to validate the debt, and you have 30 days. Now, if some of you are brave enough, because I have done it, I have actually challenged debt collectors who are actually on my credit report. So the 30 days have expired, but I still challenge them to validate the debt. And some of them I have actually won. So I'm going to provide those of you that request, I'm going to provide you with debt validation letters. Should you decide you want to use those for the collections that are currently on your credit report, give it a try. But any new debt collector, remember, you have 30 days to respond. If you don't respond, your silence is giving consent. 30 days. So now let's talk about improving your credit score. Here's the things that make up your credit score. So you always want to make sure, since we're talking about being offensive and keeping our credit score, uh, our numbers high, you want to always check your payment history. Your payment history is 35% of your credit score. Make sure you're writing that down. Your payment history, paying your bills on time, that makes up 35% of your credit score. That's more than a third by itself. Reducing your amounts owed and improving credit utilization. That's 30% of your score. And I'll get into utilization here in a minute. But reducing the amount of debt that you owe and improving your credit utilization, that's 30%. Building the length of credit history. So how long you've been using credit, that's 15% of your credit score. Now, how you manage your credit mix. Remember, I shared with you that they want to see that you have installment credit, revolving credit, etc. That's your credit mix. That makes up 10% of your credit score. Protecting your credit inquiries, and you know what those are. When you go to that dealership and they want to run your credit and they ask for your social security number, anytime they ask for a social, that's a hard pull and it's going against your credit. Soft pulls do not affect your credit score. So you want to make sure you're monitoring your pulls and who's running your credit, because that's going to hurt your credit score. So that makes up 10%. And that's how your score is calculated, based on these factors here. So strategy number one, let's talk about it. Check your payment history, because that's 35% of your score. Go through your credit report to make sure everything is updated and accurate. Be sure to take the time to check for accuracies in the following areas: your personal information, to include your name, address, and basic information that is current. Anything that's not current, you're calling the fraud department for the 3 credit bureaus and you're having it removed because it's no longer accurate. And you only want your current information listed. All account information. Review your payment history. Review it for accuracy. Review the accuracy of account ownership, because there may be accounts on your credit report that don't belong to you. So check it for accuracy. There shouldn't be any accounts listed that are not yours. So if you have cases of identity theft, people have actually went in and created accounts under individuals' names. That's a big issue here in this country, is identity theft. So you want to check your credit report to make sure there are no accounts listed under your name that don't belong to you. Ensure the debts that you have paid appear paid and not unpaid. Check the dates that you open and close the accounts to make sure they're accurate. So any credit or any debts that you've paid should appear paid and not unpaid. And check the dates to make sure they're accurate. Also, look at the age of any negative history, because there's a statute of limitations. Negative credit history, such as late payments, should fall off your credit report after 7 years. If you still see them there, you can dispute it with the 3 credit reporting agencies and request to have those removed. So make sure you're checking the dates of all of your accounts. Any account that's over 7 years, have it removed. Negative items that appear as public record, such as judgment, tax liens, or foreclosures, of course, those take 10 years to fall off. Now, disputing inaccuracies on your credit report. The bureaus want to make it easy as possible to deny a dispute. Why? Because the credit bureaus don't work for you. They work for the companies that pay for their services, so they work for the creditors. Remember that. So they want to deny your disputes by saying you did not produce or provide enough information for your claim. If you're going to dispute something with the credit bureau, the mail is the only way to move forward. And I'm going to share with you why. All the bureaus use an automated dispute resolution process called eOscar to respond to disputes mailed in by consumers. So everything goes through an electronic software system. This software spits out 2 or 3 character code that represents the category of your dispute and sends it to the creditor to verify the information. So everything goes through a software program. So when you send it in, it goes through Oscar. Oscar affixes a code to it, and then it goes out to the creditor. Now, what is our goal? Your overall goal is to get your dispute kicked out of the automated character reading machine and processed by a real person. So here's what I want you to do. The easiest way to do this is to handwrite your dispute letter. Why do I want you to handwrite it? Because the algorithm cannot understand handwritten correspondence. Handwrite it in cursive, but also make sure it's legible because you want to have a human person reading it and you want to make sure they can understand what you're requesting in your correspondence. And do it on a piece of paper other than white. The algorithm is always used to trying to process white paper, so throw it off. Use a different color other than white. Our goal is to get past this electronic software, this Oscar system. A nice legible cursive is great for this. So you want the bureau employee to be able to understand what you're saying, just not the computer. So before writing your dispute, this is very important. I hope you're listening to me, family. So before writing your dispute to the 3 major credit reporting bureaus, here's what I want you to do. I want you to freeze all secondary credit reporting agencies. These secondary credit reporting agencies is where Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian get their information from. So we're going to freeze them. You can do a credit freeze. So that is where the 3 major reporting agencies get their information from. And those secondaries are called LexisNexis, Innovis, SageStream, CoreLogic, Credco, etc. And I just put here in the slide, here is a link to LexisNexis to do a freeze. So you can actually go to LexisNexis and they will tell you on their site how to do a freeze. And they will also let you know that according to the law that you're within your rights as a consumer to freeze these secondaries. So now when you freeze, listen to this strategy. Now when you freeze these secondary credit reporting agencies, TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian, when they go to collect information to validate it, guess what? They can't because those agencies have been freezed and can't submit information. So before you do your dispute, make sure you freeze these secondary credit reporting agencies and then send in your handwritten dispute to all 3 credit reporting agencies. Handwritten in cursive on paper other than white by mail with a certified mail because you want a receipt that someone signed for it. Is everyone following me? So we're going to dispute inaccuracies by submitting a dispute via the Postal Service certified mail after we've frozen those secondary credit reporting agencies. So the 3 major bureaus can't validate. Okay. So that's the link for LexisNexis. I gave you one. You look at the other ones, you can Google those and you can go to their site and they will also show you how to do freezes for their agencies as well. But you can freeze them as a consumer. You're within your rights. So steps to dispute an account. Here are instructions from the Consumer Finance Agency on how to dispute via the credit bureau or the agency that gave the wrong information. Explain in writing what you think is wrong, why, and include copies of documents that support your dispute. Now, easy thing to do when you talk about a debt collection agency coming after you and you are within your 30 days, it's very simple. Okay, I want to count the number of words. 6 words. I have no contract with them. 6 words. I have no contract. I am not legally obligated to pay them, nor did I legally bind myself to an agreement to pay them. And that debt collector can't prove otherwise because you never agreed to pay them. They bought your debt from the creditor for pennies on the dollar, and you never told them to do that. So I have no contract with them. Second bullet, if you mail a dispute, your dispute letter should include contact information for you, including complete name, address, and telephone number. Current, because remember, you're contacting their fraud department to have all old information removed. Clearly identify each mistake, such as an account number, for any account you may be disputing. Explain why you are disputing the information. Request that the information be removed or corrected. And if I'm going too fast, I'm just going to ask you to please take pictures of the screen because I have a lot of information to cover as we move forward. But this is actually from the Consumer Finance website. So this is governmental information so that you know exactly how to proceed with your dispute. Enclose a copy of the portion of your credit report that contains the disputed item. Circle and highlight the item. You should include copies, not originals, of documents that support your position. Always keep your originals. Send copies. Send your dispute, as I just shared with you, by certified mail, and make sure to ask for a return receipt. This way you will have a record that your letter was received. Sending your dispute via postal service creates a paper trail. You need, just in case you need to escalate the matter. So you always want to make sure you have documentation. Documentation beats conversation. Do we have any questions before I move on?
Not at this time.
Okay, great. So strategy number 3, reduce the amounts owed and improve credit utilization. That's 30% of your credit score. Reduce amounts that you owe and improve credit utilization. Now, what is credit utilization? That's just a way of saying how much of your available credit have you used. If you have a credit card and it's $500 and you spend no more than $50, you're doing what? 10% utilization. You're only using 10% of that available credit. So credit utilization looks at how you use all of your credit cards, mortgage, car loans, etc. Credit cards are definitely the most heavily scored. Did you hear that? Credit cards are definitely the most heavily scored in the area of credit usage. So when you talk about utilization, one of the heaviest weighted factors is credit card use. This is because credit card debt is unsecured debt. It is unsecured because no one is going to pay back the credit card company if you don't pay the bill. So here's what I want you to do. First thing I want you to figure out is your statement closing date. Do you know your statement closing date for your credit cards? This is the date that your billing statement is prepared. Typically, it occurs 21 days before your payment due date, and it acts as a stamped evidence of any debt you owe to the credit card company. So 21 days before your payment due date, that's called your statement date. They print out your statement, and generally I'll receive notification to my phone that my statement is ready, and that's 21 days before my credit card due date. So you can find this date on your bill or log into your credit card account online and find it there. If you still can't locate it, call the credit card company. Your statement date will be on the same day every month. So on that document that I emailed to you with regard to your credit cards, make sure you list there your statement date for each card. The day your billing statement is prepared, a copy of the statement is sent to the credit bureaus. So once they create your billing statement, it's also sent to the credit bureaus. You want your smallest balance to be reported before the statement date to the credit bureaus. So whenever that statement date is due, let's say it's due on the 15th, and you know that on the 15th of every month, your statement is going to be drafted by the credit card company or produced by them, and they're also going to send that same statement to the 3 credit reporting bureaus on the 15th, then guess what? No later than the 14th, zero that balance out. So then what do they send to the credit reporting bureaus? That you're carrying a zero balance. Utilization is low. Do you see how that works? So the goal is to make sure that when they report to the credit bureaus, it shows that you're maintaining your credit every month, paying on time, and your utilization is low. Zero it out before they send it to the credit reporting bureaus. So you're not looking at the due date, you're looking at the statement date. The statement date is 21 days before the due date. So once that statement is produced, you want to pay it down the day before so that when it goes to the credit reporting bureaus, they see that it's zeroed out and it's low credit utilization. And that's 30% of your credit score. Here's another strategy. I want you to list all your credit cards, add up your credit limits, add up your current balances, and then ask yourself, are you using more than 10% of your credit utilization across all your cards? Remember, I share with you, you have experts that will say you shouldn't use any more than 30%. Well, since we're looking to improve our credit score, I'm sharing with you, you should keep it at 10%. You have several of the financial experts that say you should try to keep your credit card or your utilization at about 10%. Some say 10 to 20%, but the lower the better. Keep your older, less competitive cards open. This is another thing. Those old credit cards that you have, do not let those cards go inactive. Keep those cards open and active so you can retain the value of the age on those accounts. Keeping an old card active is like having an old friend from back in the day vouch for your character. I've known Kimberly for 20 years, and I can say for 20 years, she's always been a stand up person. That's what that old credit card does when it stays active. She's had me for 20 years and she's always kept me active and paid me on time. It's vouching for your credit. So keep that card open, even if it means tying it to a streaming account or a Spotify, something minimal. Keep it open, keep it active, because the length of your credit is also a part of the mix of your credit score.
Is it possible to repeat the list again?
The list for what? I'm sorry.
They weren't specific. They just said, "Can you repeat the list again?" The list that you just said.
Okay, if they can annotate in the chat or place in the chat what list, I'll make sure I do that.
Credit card. They just said credit card list again.
Now, are you talking about the secondary credit reporting agencies?
No. Okay, we may have to answer that question offline.
Okay. So keep your older credit cards open. Make sure you do not close those accounts out. Keep them active, because length of history is going to speak to your credit score. So here's a strategy. People with the best credit profile. Now, I researched this, and in doing the research, there was a study conducted, and based on that study, they looked at credit profiles. Those individuals with the best credit profiles used a common credit card strategy. Here it is. They generally had 4 or 5 credit cards, but 2 of the credit cards are the ones that they used to take care of their day-to-day expenses. So they had 2 credit cards that handle most of their day-to-day. The other cards were stashed away and just used once or twice a month to pay for small recurring bills such as Netflix or Spotify. That was common among individuals that had the best credit profiles. So they had 2 credit cards that they used for their day-to-day expenses. The other 2 credit cards were stashed away. They never even pulled them out. They were just set up on auto pay for their Netflix, their streaming accounts, and they would zero that bill out every month. So that is a great strategy. So remember, I shared with you that credit cards is not free money. What gets people in trouble, they think credit card is free. So they have a credit card, so they'll just swipe, swipe, and swipe. No, if you don't have the money in the bank to zero that balance out every month, then don't use the credit card. I tie my credit cards to all of my fixed expenses. So all of my bills are tied to creditors who accept credit cards. And rather than using a debit card or paying a check, I use my credit card, and then I take the money out of the bank that I was going to use to pay them, and I just pay the credit card off in full. And so that increases my credit score, but it also gives me rewards and points for me to do travel, hotels, dining, etc. with the Queen. All right, so here it is. The goal is to get a credit card, pay it on time, and utilize it well. Remember those 3 things: to get a credit card, pay it on time, utilize it well. Strategy 4, protect your credit inquiries. This is 10% of your credit score. Every strategy that I'm giving you is tied to part of the mix that makes up your credit score and the percentage. So strategy 4 is protect your credit inquiries, and that's 10% of your score. Anytime you apply for credit, the company you are applying for, or applying to rather, will check your credit. When a company checks your credit with your permission, you have to share your social security number. So anytime they ask for your social, well, we're not going to do a hard pull. We're just going to do an inquiry, or we just want to look at some information, but we need your social. Well, no, if you're not doing a hard pull, you don't need my social. Anytime you give up your social security number, that creditor is going to do a hard pull and is going to affect your credit score. Remember that. So here's what that tells the credit reporting companies: that you are trying to open a new account or get a new loan or potentially get a new expense that will cost you money every month. So you're taking on new debt. The credit bureaus think of it this way: the more accounts you have and the more things that cost money that you have, the more potential for you to be in debt. And so they want to see that you're managing debt, not that you're taking on more debt than you can handle. So while we're looking to improve our credit score, monitor your inquiries, and please do not do any hard pulls until your score is at least at that 750. I said I want you to be a part of the 700 club. I just escalated. I'm thinking 750. The credit inquiries are counted as only 10% of your score. They present an easy way for you to gain 10 points. Don't do any inquiries, and guess what? You're keeping 10 additional points to your credit score. It's an easy process because you have control and can limit the number of hard inquiries that are run on your credit. So I want you to think about that. And I say here at the bottom, don't allow any hard credit inquiries for the next 6 months while you're building your credit score. Strategy number 5 is length of credit. So the length of credit, that's why I don't want you to close out any old accounts. Keep those accounts active. Your length of credit history refers to how long you've been using your credit. This part of your credit report will show your oldest accounts and the average age your account or of your open and closed accounts. What doesn't get scored here is any negative accounts. So any negative accounts, 30, 60, 90 days derogatory, and the more days it was late, the greater percentage of negative impact it has on your credit report. So it won't score any negative accounts, including collections or public judgments. But it does show the age of your oldest accounts. So again, I keep reiterating this: do not close those old credit cards. Keep them active. This factor is more about age than performance. This is why people with no, I have people share with me, Osceola, I use cash all the time and I pay for everything that I buy with cash. Why don't I have good credit? Because you have no credit. They have nothing to judge you by because you use cash. You don't leverage credit. So this factor is more about age than performance. This is why people with no or little credit history can be considered to have bad or poor credit. Their credit has not been around long enough for them to demonstrate how they are going to handle credit. So although you haven't taken on any credit, you pay for everything with cash, you have no open credit accounts for them to see how you're going to handle a credit or how you're going to handle credit for them to score you. So you have to take on credit and show that you're able to manage credit so they can score you on your ability to manage the credit. So here's a strategy I just shared with you. Keep your oldest credit card open. This is one of the best strategies for increasing your score. The longer you had a loan with a good payment history, the more valuable it is to your profile. This is especially important when it comes to credit cards. A credit card account that has the most value to your credit, it adds the most value to your credit profile. Why? If you've had it for at least a year and have spotless payment history, that is going to provide you with the greatest value to your credit profile. Second bullet, What to do if you have limited credit history. So if you have a limited credit history, you have no credit history. If you are renting an apartment, you can still have your rental history reported. Now, for the longest, it was only those with a mortgage that could report their payment history for their residence. Now, if you're renting an apartment, you can still have that rent or those rental payments recorded. And I gave you the listings there. You can go to rentreporters.com. You can go to erentpayment.com, renttrack.com, gozygo.com to get your positive rental payment history included on your credit report. So if you are a renter, you definitely want to reach out to these agencies and have your rental payments tracked so they can go onto your credit report, especially if you're looking one day to purchase a home. It will show that you have a positive rental history, that you pay for your living arrangements every month on time. You can also download the Experian Boost app. That will track your utilities. Utility companies do not pay, or do not pay rather, to have your information reported to the credit bureaus. They don't consider themselves to be lenders. They're not lenders. So you can use the Experian Boost app to track your utilities. Download the app. Another option is to get a secured credit card. Now, with a secured credit card, you put down a cash deposit, and that is your credit limit. Then you're issued a card that you're able to use just like a regular unsecured card. Now, here's the disclaimer. Some secured cards have annual fees, but it's easy to find cards that do not. You do not want a secured credit card with an annual fee. Look at the ones that have zero fees. I provided some links there. If you want to take a picture of that, here are some links to the top rated secure credit card sites for 2022. So these are the top rated secure credit cards for this calendar year. This is done by Forbes magazine and also by NerdWallet, which are two of the most reputable agencies out there when it comes to anything financial. So you can go to those two sites there, find your top rated secured credit card, and start using that credit card. Tie your streaming services to it. You can tie your utilities to it. Anything you want to tie to it, just automate it and make sure you zero it out every month so you can start building credit history. Now, here's something to be cautious of. You have some companies that charge over $50 for annual fees. I just shared with you. Do not use a card that has an annual fee. Do not use a card where they're asking you to call a 1-900 number, because 900 numbers cost money. And so if you see that, do not contact them. Also, ask if your transactions will be reported to all three major credit bureaus. That's what you want to find out when you're researching these cards. Make sure that your payments are going to be reported to Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. Now, I want you to go back and review your monthly bills. Find the smallest one, for example, a streaming subscription or a phone bill. Move that lowest bill to be automatically charged to this now secured credit card. This small monthly bill should be the only thing this card is used for. Just make sure to pay the balance the following day after the statement date, or should I say before the statement date posts, so that it's then reported to the credit bureaus. Now, strategy number 6, manage your credit mix. This is 10% of your credit score. Manage your credit mix. There are two types of credit. You have revolving credit and you have installment credit. Revolving credit is your credit card, because you pay your credit card amount off, and guess what? If you have an $1,800 credit limit and you I don't know, you use $300 and then you zero it out and pay that $300, what happens? It goes back up to $1,800. So it's constantly revolving, right? So that's revolving credit. Installment credit is when you get a loan and you are required to make monthly installments on that loan until it's paid in full. That's a mortgage, that's a car payment, that's a student loan. Those are installment credits. To understand a good credit mix, let's look at a big study that Credit Karma did. Credit Karma did a study on 200,000 of its customers to drill down and find out what specific financial treats the customer invest. I'm sorry. I'm trying to read this and I have a glare, but they did a study on 200,000 customers and they wanted to find out what people were doing that had a 700 to 799 credit score, 600 to 699 credit score, 500 to 599, and even below 500. So they did this study. The people who responded to Credit Karma, who had scores of more than 800, had some striking differences from people with lower scores. So people with 800 plus do things differently. The average 800 plus score, listen to this, they had 9 open credit accounts that combined to a total of $62,481 in debt. And 7 of those accounts were credit cards they had available with a credit limit of $78,377 and only had a $5,429 balance on those cards. So are you following that? They had 9 open accounts and 7 of those were credit cards. Now, what were they showing? They were showing they can handle multiple lines of revolving credit. When it came to payments, they made their payments, look at this, 99.99% of them were on time, almost 100%. And they had $0 past due. They made sure that the statement date that was sent to the credit bureau had the lowest percentage of utilization. Consumers between 700 and 799 also had terrific credit, but they carried twice as much debt. See, those with high scores don't carry a lot of debt. Those that had even lower scores, people living in the 600s, were starting to see more late payments creep into their profile. And they carried around a much higher percentage of debt to available credit. It's something that people with the low credit scores, they're always using credit cards to purchase things that they really can't afford. So it's about understanding how to manage your credit. When you have credit cards, you want to keep the credit utilization I shared with you at what? 10%. So if you have a credit card and the limit is $2,000, that gives you what? $200. You can say to yourself, if I have a bill that's $200 every month, I'll tie it to this credit card. If I have another bill that's $300, I have to make sure I have a $3,000 limit on the credit card. I'll tie it to that credit card. But every month I'm going to zero it out and I'm going to keep the utilization to 10%. So when it comes to your credit mix, you want to make sure that you have a good mix of revolving and installment credit. A total of 5 to 9 loans in good standing with a mixture of mortgage loans, car loans, student loans, and credit card companies comprise the profile that lenders want to see. Now, that's what the researchers are saying, the economists. They were saying that lenders want to see a consumer with 5 to 9 loans in good standing with a mixture of mortgage loans, car loans, student loans, credit cards. That's what they want to see. That's a good credit mix. And that's what? That's 10% of your credit score. So, and I'm going to go into the homework assignment here, but I want to know first, do we have anything in the chat? Any questions? Now's the time to ask the questions. I just went through each area that makes up your credit score. And I shared with you how to raise your credit score in each of those areas. I'm going to look at the slide again and no later than Tuesday evening, for those of you that want a copy of this PowerPoint, so you'll have it, so you will know what to do in each area of your credit score, I'll send it to you because I know I went over a lot, but I had to go over it quickly because of the amount of information. But if you follow the strategies for each one of those, for your credit mix, credit length, um, you will definitely see your credit score begin to improve. And I'm going to say within the next 6 months, I want to see you in the 700 club. But any questions, Sister Kimberly, do we have anything in the chat?
What is the best credit card, or what is the best card to get to increase your credit score?
Okay, so that's what I'm sharing with you. When you have the secured credit card, if you don't have any length of history or you have a minimal amount of credit history length, you want to get a secured credit card. And I gave you the link there that's going to give you the top credit cards for 2022. You choose. I just want you to choose one that doesn't have a fee. And if any of those give you rewards, you choose the reward that you want. I have a American Express Platinum card. The reason why I have that is because it provides, if Kimberly and I want to travel, we get to use those exclusive lounges in the airport. So we can go to the lounge, they give us free food, free drinks, and while we're waiting for our plane. So I love those lounges. And then they give us a credit every year to stay at a luxury level 4 or 5 diamond hotel. They give us a credit for that. And then we earn points every time we use the card so that we can use those points to stay at luxury hotels without paying out of pocket. And the only thing I'm doing is tying my American Express card to my monthly bills. Rather than use my debit card to pay the bills or send a check, I use my credit card. Then I take the money out of my bank account that I was going to use to pay those bills anyway, and I dump it on the credit card and zero it out. And American Express gives me 5 points per dollar every month. So that's what I do. I don't use my credit card for frivolous spending. I don't see it as free money. So I want you to choose what card. Now, when it comes to optimizing your credit card, that's another lesson that we're going to work on, optimizing your credit card, where I'm going to show you, and this is not a credit card to build credit. This is a credit card to build lifestyle. Once we have your credit score at a 700 or 750, I'm going to show you what credit cards to get with a 750 credit score. And when you get that credit card, I'm going to show you how to use it to maximize your lifestyle. But when it comes to the secured credit card, I want you to choose whatever card you want because you're only going to use it to pay for a small bill every month and automate it because you're going to use it to increase your score. So you're really not going to use it for anything else. So it really doesn't matter. Any other questions, please?
There was only questions regarding reviewing tonight's lesson, and tonight's lesson is currently being streamed on Facebook. So participants can like and share on Facebook and also review the content at their leisure.
Okay. And if anybody wants the PowerPoint, please send me a note in the chat if you want that. Because even if you stream it, I know it's a lot of information and the links and the URLs. I want to make sure you have that information because I really want to make sure you're doing the work. If you do the work, I promise you it will pay off. You know, I only show my credit score on social media because I want to share with people that I'm not preaching anything that I'm not practicing. So everything that I'm sharing with you, I'm actually practicing. The only debt I have is this mortgage. And the way Kimberly and I have it set up is that this mortgage, a 30-year mortgage, will be paid off in 18 or less years. So it's all about strategizing. And I'm going to share all these strategies with you because I want you to be in that same position, if not better. So homework assignment. There are some of you that shared that you're looking to purchase a home. So here's something I want you to do. Let's look at what lenders look for. And I have just give me 2 minutes. Banks like to see no more than 28% of your gross monthly income going to housing and taxes. So whatever you're looking to purchase, the amount that you're looking to purchase, make sure it doesn't exceed 28% of your gross monthly income. The very best credit report, here it is, family, it's called a tri-merge. That's not what you get from Credit Karma or freeannualcreditreport.com. No, a tri-merge is what lenders use. And theirs is more comprehensive than anything that you'll get for free off the internet. If you have a banker friend or a real estate person, they can actually run a tri-merge on you. Some won't do it if they're not receiving any value for it. But if you have a friend that's willing to do that, you can always ask. State housing authorities, this is where they have their first time homeowners programs. I want you to contact them and inquire about the lending process and the process to become a first time homeowner. So that's your homework there. And then last but not least, mortgage assistance. For those of you that have foreclosures, you're on the brink of foreclosure, you're behind in your mortgage payments, and it's going to negatively impact your credit score. Here's the agency that you can call, Balance, and they provide assistance across the country for individuals that are having hardships when it comes to satisfying their monthly mortgage payments. And that's it, family. Again, another great evening that I've enjoyed being here with you. Next week, we're going to move even further, but I want you to please make sure that you're employing these strategies, you're implementing these strategies, you're doing the homework. Any questions, you can get me through Facebook, social media, Messenger, or you can inbox me via email. Thank you and have a good night.